Well, it is indeed a new day in Avalanche land for a lot of reasons, but that does not stop the NHL schedule, does it? As this is the DNVR Avalanche Pregame show presented by Coors Light. I am Rudo here by myself because it's that type of day. Our boy Big E out in Boston getting the Chris McFarland presser, which we will have later for you on the show if you missed it. Yeah, this will be the first time in 8 years that the Avs play a game without Mikko Rantanen, at least in the system. 9 years, really, I guess, if you mean in the system. So it is definitely a new world. We'll see what happens. Martin Necas, someone told me you don't say it that way the other day, so I still don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, but one way or another, he will be in the lineup for the Avs tonight, and we will see what he brings to Colorado off the hop. Of course, expectations there. Let's be realistic about a guy who just swapped teams literally 15 hours ago. It's been 15 hours that he's been an Av, so maybe keep expectations a little bit realistic for his first game, but maybe he pops off. Who's to say? Maybe you're an optimist about it. Look, obviously there's going to be some weird vibes around this game, so take what you want from it. But given the Mikko Rantanen trade yesterday, I'm personally not putting too much stock into this hockey game one way or another. So, yeah, obviously the long-term repercussions of this trade are going to be very wide sweeping and change the Avs drastically. But today, maybe don't overthink this one. I'll put it to you that way. In the scheme of these two hockey teams playing against each other, obviously the Avs have been significantly up and down as of late, but they are still a good hockey team. And Boston is kind of a weird team this year. I don't know. I'm not fully sure what to make of the Boston Bruins this year on full anything, to be honest. They had a coaching change already because of their poor start to the season. Their forward core is weird. Obviously Pastrnak is great, not knocking that, but their center depth is highly questionable at best. And some of the pieces that they do have, like Brad Marchand, are not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but maybe not quite the player that he used to be for them. So it does leave you in a spot where I'm not sure how good the Boston Bruins actually are as a team. I'll put it to you that way. Their defense on paper should be really, really good, but it hasn't been great this year. And their guy in net is the one they committed to full time. And while I don't think he's been bad by any stretch of the imagination, a lot of things just haven't quite clicked for Boston. Even over their last 10, Boston just 4-4-2. So not like they've turned their season around or any stretch of that for what's going on with them. Avs also happen to be 4-4-2 right now, and everyone is not particularly happy with this stretch of hockey for Colorado. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know, Chad. I've been told multiple times it's Necas, but then a person that told me he was Czech said that there is no Y in the name. So I don't know.
Is it Connor Shuri or Connor Sherry?
I thought it was Connor Sheary.
I'm just kidding. Tomato. People take oh my gosh, like it's the way people like are so mean to E about it, about Nichushkin too. Like he's gotten it his entire life. Like it's okay. We're gonna be okay.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. Not the first name I've mispronounced. I won't be the last. So who knows? But not too worried about his name pronunciation. More worried about the effects he can have on the ice for the Colorado Avalanche. And the Avs will obviously be playing him in the top 6. Chris McFarland expected that. That's no big surprise there. Maybe the more interesting verbiage used in McFarland's presser was talking about Jack Drury as a potential 3C, which seems generous to me. I mean, if you get the best version of Jack Drury, sure, he could be your 3C. I don't see why not. But the version we've seen of Jack Drury so far in Carolina this year, the production has not been there to say that he can effectively be a 3C. So Colorado would have to get the absolute best out of that guy. The expectation is he's the 3C for Colorado going forward. I understand it mechanically. You're looking at a player like that to play C because the Parssinen thing at C hasn't really gone great. I think Parssinen has been okay, but it just feels better with him on the wing from what we've seen so far. And the Avs have cycled through a number of guys that haven't been effective enough as the 3C, and it doesn't feel like Drury really changes that for me. But again, we're looking at expectations for players that it's going to take 5 to 10 games for them to get acclimated to Colorado and play inside the systems. But the reality is the Avs also need to start winning games right now. Today against Boston on a weird matinee game that is at 1 p.m. local and 11 a.m. time here in Colorado. So there's just a whole lot of weirdness in this game specifically. And on the one hand, if they play poorly, you're just going to live with that. On the other hand, if they play well and can find a way to persevere, maybe you can mark this off as a change of pace for Colorado in their season. And I mean, honestly, poorly or playing well, this is definitely a change for the organization. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know really what to expect tonight. A lot of nights, you do this job long enough, you get a vibe going into games, and sometimes you're wrong. It happens, but you can usually get a decent vibe on how a team feels going into any given game. Absolutely no vibe for this game at all. Genuinely anything could happen in this game, and it would not surprise me. The Avs could win 8-0. They could lose 8-0. It could be a shutout both ways. No outcome would surprise me because I have no idea where the Avs are mentally nor physically. I don't know. Biggie is out there, even if he's not live on the show with us, though. So let's get to his 3 keys of the game, which might be weird, like this whole game.
Biggie's 3 keys here from TD Garden. I think key number 1 is go play. Go play. Put everything aside. It was a crazy day yesterday with Mikko as trade. Crazy day for fans, players, management. Put feeling aside. You got to be a professional. This is a big game for the Avalanche. So, nonetheless, show up, get dressed, and just go play the game that you love, and then you can talk about everything else after. Key number 2, take advantage of depth. The Avalanche can roll some lines out there. They have a better depth at forward, better depth on D than the Boston Bruins. And friend of the show, Joe Sacco, former Avalanche coach, obviously head coach of the Boston Bruins. He's had his hands full lately. Their roster is not that talented, and they're not that deep. So take advantage of that. So if you're the Avalanche, just make sure you go out there and you grind them out and go from there. Key number 3, let the cream rise. I do believe on this ice, the best forward in the National Hockey League is Nathan MacKinnon. So we have the best forward. You have the best defenseman in Cale Makar in the National Hockey League. And you do believe, you have one of the best goaltenders since joining the Avalanche in Mackenzie Blackwood. So rock and roll. Make sure you just get out there and let the cream rise. See you guys after.
Yeah, all right. Let the cream rise. I'm down for that, to be honest. The Avs are going to need it. Not to say Necas isn't really, really good and will not help the Avs. He absolutely will in a lot of ways. But there is even more weight falls on Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar in particular to be the guys on this hockey team now. They are the true superstars left on this team, and they are going to have to carry the weight of this team, especially in the immediate. We'll see how things develop across the remaining 30 3 games of this season, but those are the guys you're going to turn to in times like this when you're going through an organizational reshuffle or whatever you want to call this. And the Avs are obviously still looking to win. You'll hear it in McFarland's presser in a little bit. The Avs are trying to make themselves better. I can believe whether this made them better or worse. It ultimately is probably not even the last step of these moves. Whatever you want to call this body of work, there is more to come. We'll see how that all plays out, but I don't want to call it a new era. It does start tonight, though, right? The Avs have made this shift, and they're going to probably define Chris McFarland's legacy with maybe not just this season, but the next 2 seasons. We could either be talking about what a super genius Chris McFarland is, or we might be talking about if Chris McFarland even has the Avalanche GM job anymore because of the path that they've decided to walk down here. So I know I haven't talked a super lot about today's game, but that's just kind of how this one's going to go. There's going to be a lot of conversations that maybe aren't directly coming from what happens on the ice of this game. Yeah, it's going to be a weird watch along and a weird post game too. So don't expect things to normalize too much today. Maybe that can happen for tomorrow's game. We'll see. But the Avalanche are ultimately still built the same way. The same expectations are going to be there, whether that's Rantanen in that spot or Necas in that spot. They're going to try and accomplish their goals the same way. At 5-on-5, maybe you feel a little bit more well-rounded. Obviously, your offensive punch probably feels a little bit less, but you should feel a little bit more comfortable defensively in your top 6 forward core. And on the power play, it's going to be different. I don't know that it's going to solve all your problems. I don't expect it to solve all the Avs' problems on the power play immediately, but it should be able to give you a different look, something different on a power play that desperately needed something different. Maybe more than anything, if that power play has a little bit of life, that should give you a little bit of confidence in the Avs going forward under this new situation. If nothing else, maybe that helps you feel a little bit better about things if they can have a decent power play. But Boston is a team where you feel like the Avs probably should be able to capitalize on things. It's hard to have any confidence in their power play at all, regardless of who's on it. It's been that bad lately, but maybe Boston is a team where you feel like the Avs can do something on the power play. They are no good at all on the power play, or on the penalty kill, I should say, at right around 75% effective ability on that thing. So if you can find it, it's not going to get much more opportunity than this to have a complete shakeup of your special teams on the offensive side. On the penalty kill side, I hope Jack Drury can help them there. Obviously, based on his numbers, he's in theory an elite defensive center in the bottom 6. He's one of the best by the metrics defensive centers in the league for a guy that plays against that caliber of competition. So you really should be building a bottom 6 that gives up absolutely nothing with Kelly, O'Connor, Kiviranta, and then you add on Jack Drury to that. So you would like to see, from the bottom 6 perspective in a game like this, just limit the damage against. That's really it. I don't think there's much scoring expectation at all, and how those lines shake out. I know I talked about McFarland wanting Drury to be a 3C, but we know how Jared Bednar operates. We know he's going to fall back onto his safety blanket, and right now that is that Kelly LOC. Mostly Kivy is the third guy on that line, so I do expect to see some of that line tonight as well.
Do you know the lines, Rue?
I have not seen any unless someone.
No, I got them. I'm making the graphic now for social, but I can't make it for the show right now, but I got you. Druin, McKinnon, and Necas on the first line. Parsonen, Middleton, Lehkonen on the second. Colton, Drury, and LOC on the third. Kiviranta, Kelly, and Wagner on the fourth. No changes to the defense, and Wedgwood is starting.
Okay. Not all of that's surprising. I do think seeing Parson on the second line, on the one hand, good. I want to see more opportunity for someone like Parson, but it also shows the awkward spot the Avs currently reside in with the move that they've opted to make. No Nichushkin still on the injured list. Your top six is a little bit thin right now. I don't have a great answer for you on how you round that out unless Parkson really steps up and helps fill that role for you. So it's going to be – I don't know. I really don't know what to expect across the first 5 games. I think the Avs lineup feels like it has a lot of holes in it right now, if I'm honest with you. Even if you did get 2 guys in return for Rantanen, it does not feel like you solved some of the problems that were in your lineup. And when Nichushkin gets back, when Miles Wood gets back, maybe that lineup feels a little bit more whole at that time. But in the immediate, I don't know that you've plugged any of the holes, really. So, yeah, it's still full of what I was talking about earlier. Your best players somehow have even more weight to shoulder. And the reality is maybe not today, but Nate just has to help with that a lot. He has to be very, very good here for Colorado. And he's fully capable. He's having a fantastic season. He was on a 90-point pace in Carolina, and there really is no reason to believe he won't be able to keep that up here, if not improve it, especially if he gets to play next to Nathan MacKinnon. So you have to lean into the belief in that guy and hope that he is not just part of the solution or whatever you want to call it, but can ascend to the best hockey of his career here in Colorado next to Nathan MacKinnon. And if that happens, hey, sky's the limit, right? You have an opportunity. You just can't wait that long for it. I know I'm talking about this transition period of 5 to 10 games, but really you have this back-to-back, and then it's got to click. If Nate just starts slow in Colorado beyond these 2 games, things are going to get uncomfortable very, very quickly. So I'm not fully sure what to expect. And I know I'm kind of reiterating myself a few times here, so we can kind of start wrapping things up a little bit here. But this is really just a we have to see situation, because there's not a whole lot else to say. When a trade as big as this one gets made, we just have to wait and see. The results will tell the tale of where this team ends up. But I do want to get to my pregame picks here with Bet365 if they're ready to go, Tiff. If not, we can do it in a different order. All right, they're ready to go. Obviously, I took the Avs to win and cover because it's plus 165, and I'm taking that off of a MacKinnon goal. And the big thing for Necas here is he's got to shoot the puck. He has to be an effective shooter of the puck here. I know career-wise, he's a pass-first type guy, but if you are replacing Mikko Rantanen in this lineup and you were going to be effective, especially given the way Colorado has played on the power play, he has to be willing to shoot the puck. If he does that, there'll be a good amount of success here. I really think that's true. As of now, I don't know which way to go with it. I'm putting my money on things going well for him, putting my money on Nathan MacKinnon stepping up here. Do you believe in the Avs? These are the types of things you want to be jumping on with Bet365. So make sure you jump in with Bet365. Use the DNVR 365 code when you sign up. And, of course, when you do gamble with them, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. I've been rambling about it enough. We do have the full presser from Chris McFarland if you haven't seen it. So I guess let's just play that for you, and you can formulate your own opinions on it.
Chris, just could you sort of walk us through why now, how this all went down?
It's a bittersweet day, right? That Mikko is a decorated player for us. He's an elite winger in this league, and so it was a tough few days, but we just felt the timing was right. And when the the last few days it kind of came together, and we decided to act yesterday, but it wasn't without a lot of serious thought, I can assure you of that.
Was it just a few days ago that it kind of went from negotiation to now we're going to move in this direction?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into sort of the month by month, week by week chronology of it. I think it was just a tough business decision here for us, and we just felt that the pieces we got, it made sense to strike now.
What do Necas and Drury bring to your team?
Well, I think, Martin Necas, he's been around the top 10 in scoring this year, but I think it's his age is a big part of that. He fits in with his speed. He's certainly a top 6 talent. Whether he has another bump in his game, with the way we play, we'll see. I think Jack is hopefully that 3C that we've been kind of to look for. We've been, it's no secret that this will improve our depth. Jack's a gritty, competitive guy that I think our coaches will use on the penalty kill. We think there's another bump in his game offensively as well, and it's no secret that we've not been the best face-off team the last number of years, and I think that's an area he'll help us for sure. So just looking for him to be a gritty, competitive guy and play a two-way game.
Do you see this, Chris, as the first of some other moves that you can make because you've maybe freed some things up?
Well, I think we're always sort of looking to get better. Certainly over the next few weeks that won't change. I think obviously there's a little more bullets in the draft pick cupboards and some cap space, so it's not easy to make trades in this league, as you guys know. So, but we'll continue to look, and if something makes sense, then we'll certainly strike.
It's exceedingly rare for a team in its championship contention window, to trade a player like Mikko Rantanen. Why do you think this is going to work out and you'll remain a championship contender?
Look, these are tough decisions. There's nothing done in a vacuum. Mikko earned the right to be an unrestricted free agent, and he's 5 months away from that. So you got to make these hard decisions. The player has to make them, and the club has to make them, and that's what we did. And getting 2 cost-controlled assets was important. That we felt we got the top 6 guy and a good bottom 6 guy, and away we go.
How do you feel the room will handle losing such an important piece?
I don't think it's an issue at all. I think they're pros. It's not the first time, right? We've lost some pretty good players here, from the 2020s on. It's a byproduct of the cap world. I think COVID was a tough thing at the time of the cycle we were in. We certainly lost some good players because we didn't have the cap increases that were hopefully going to come, but that no one feels sorry for you. There's a lot of teams that have had to deal with that as well, but I think our guys are, they're a weathered group. They know it's at times it's a tough business, and I think this certainly is one of those times, because Mikko is not only a superstar, and it's cliche, but he's a great person, so we'll definitely miss him.
At that moment when you finalize this deal, for you, are there nerves? Is there anticipation? Is there something like, what is just that feeling when you complete a deal of this magnitude?
Yeah, I think it's all of that. I think look, we're all fans of the game. You get attracted, to you'll fall in love with your players, I guess, is at times you want to see them do well, and it's definitely a tough part of the business, but that's the job. So you gotta feel like what you're doing is best for the logo and best for the team, short and long term, and you try and marry those things together, and you make the best decision you can.
You open up a bit of cap space. Gabe's been skating a bit more lately. Has anything changed as far as his status goes?
Yeah, no, nothing's changed. Gabe is continuing to grind, and will continue to glean information. Hopefully, maybe it was month by month, and hopefully now it's going to be week by week. But I think every little bit that goes by, but there's nothing in the near horizon, that's for sure.
You mentioned the cap. There has been lots of kind of smoke about, hey, it's going to go up this much or this much or this much the next few years. How did you weigh, hey, the cap might be a lot more in a couple of years, and we might be able to afford all of this, to what you just said about this?
Yeah, the cap is going to go up, but you've got to do your internal outlooks, right, for next year. We still, the player you just mentioned, we still have a serious unknown on that we don't have that information today. We have to operate in many different lenses and look at it from many different perspectives, and that's certainly one of them. But I think one of the areas where it's clear we're not deep enough, and I think that you got to be deep to go 4 rounds, and hopefully this is going to help that. Obviously, he's a superstar. You can't replace that. But again, he's a superstar that earned the right to be a free agent. So,
because of what you said about depth, do you feel your team's better today than it was yesterday?
Again, you lose a superstar, so we're going to have to try and replace him in the aggregate. 50-goal scorers don't grow on trees. You have to usually draft and develop them, and Mikko was a home run for us for many, many years. So I'm not going to sit here and say, we're going to miss him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So now we look forward. We're super excited to be able to get, a guy like who is top 12 in the league in scoring, who's 26, and what we feel is an emerging player in Jack Drury, who's cost controlled moving forward. I think we're going to have to do it in the aggregate, whether down the stretch and next year, and we'll go from there. But we'll continue to still look to improve the group, because we're going to have to do it, like I said, in the aggregate.
Time for a couple more, guys.
It just was draft. I mean, he's mostly been playing wing, but do you guys view him as a wing, or is there potentially he could play behind Nate?
I think the flexibility certainly is there. I think it's been a while since he's played middle, but I think we're drawn to his speed, right? He's an electric skater. Obviously, Nate and Kale and Connor, and then I think Marty is in that discussion. He can fly, so I think that's going to translate well with us. I think the flexibility for Coach Bednar to use him, whether it's trying with Nate or use his transportability with a guy like Casey, and how he's going to deploy him on the power play, I think gives him a lot of options. And listen, if he wants to try him in the middle of the ice, I won't bat an eye. I wouldn't be upset about that either.
You mentioned that trades are hard to make in this league. You've made, I don't know, maybe the 2 biggest ones in the league this year. You've had all these injuries. You've overhauled the roster in certain ways. Just what has this year been like for you?
Oh no, it's just been hockey, right? That's the job. I think it's hard because the cap world makes it hard, right? And for us, what the injuries are different lengths of time and that sort of thing. But I think you don't look to go out and make trades. You look to try and if you feel you have to, then you have to. I think our group is a resilient group. I think our guys are they're competitive and obviously want to win. And I think the goaltending earlier in the year we needed to address that, and we did, and hopefully that'll continue to be stabilized. And the last few days there's tough decisions, but that's the job.
Chris, obviously you mentioned trading the superstar. It's not easy to do, but you reached the point where you're going to do it. Do you realize the impact that can have on the fan base and the reaction sometimes?
I'm sure there's gonna. It hurt, right? It hurts, right? He's a homegrown talent. He's a superstar person. He's a superstar human being. I think that's sports, right? And it's we're going to talk about it. People are going to talk about it. I'm sure there's, your heartstrings, right? Get tugged, and that's why we all do this. And so yeah, I mean, it'd be lying if I'm like that, right? He's that good of a hockey player, and it's going to sound cliche, but he's a superhuman being. This wasn't he had the UFA card, and we felt this was what we had to do.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you, guys.
He had the UFA card, and this is what they felt they had to do. It's as simple as that. The Mikko era is over. The Necas era begins with this game. We got a watch along coming your way for it no matter what. And be sure to tune in post game where we'll have Big E on to break down whatever happens in this game and probably talk more about this crazy trade. So we appreciate all y'all hanging out for this pregame show. Come join the watch along in a few minutes here. This has been the DNVR Avalanche pregame show presented by Coors Light.
We all silly like the mayor.